Ron Wolverine Beta joining me shortly after announcing his retirement, taking his unblemished record in the light heavyweight division all the way to the top. First off, from everybody here at Slap News, congratulations on a phenomenal career and a victory here tonight at Power Slap number 11. Now that you've had a moment, you did official press, you take the ride back to the hotel. Is it all setting in and feeling as great as you hoped it would?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was great. I finished 15-5. I finished all my five losses were in heavyweight. I mean, I went and I had one middleweight matchup in Slap Fight Championship, and then the one win in heavyweight for Power Slap at Power Slap One. So I mean, I went 13-0 as a light heavyweight. Um, three of those being in Power Slap. So I mean, I'm happy with it. It was I got to face Vern, who I figured in season one, road to the title was going to be the guy I had to try to beat for the belt. He ended up not going his way at that matchup, and then so here we are at Power Slap 11, and finally got to meet. And I mean, it was an honor to share the stage with him.
Absolutely. Talk to me about the match and how it unfolded. I mean, we seen you up there with a ton of confidence. I know speaking to you before the match, you felt as good as you ever have, but it did seem like you were getting nearing the end of your career. Talk to me about how that felt, and did you feel like a young buck again up there?
Man, honestly, yeah, that knockout made me feel like like I could do this forever. But I knew coming in, I was actually a little nervous, especially this afternoon. And I talked with my wife, talked with JT, talked to my mother, my father. I talked to a few people. They all settled me down, and I knew I just had, I was planning on retiring, so I just had one job to do: go out there with a win. So I, let the nervousness go because and that was just going to be in the way. So to come out with that kind of a bit, especially the way I won, and I mean that sort of fashion was, surreal. It was, hell, I mean, I'm sure everybody would want to finish their career that way. I mean, I don't want to be that person that gets a win and then loses the next few times and then decides to try to get out at the bottom. So
Mhm.
I figured this was the best time to go, especially after that victory. Which I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I expect to see Vern back up there. Hopefully for another title shot within a couple matches. I
Mhm.
think he's deserving of it. I think tonight was just my night. Um, he actually looked, and I'm not saying nothing bad about Vern. He actually looked a little quite bit of nervous tonight rather than the past few matches when, we've been watching him come out with the knockouts and everything. So I
Mhm.
think tonight was just my night. I don't think it was anything against Vern or anything. I think he'll be right back to knocking people out here shortly.
Mhm. Talk to me about what it felt taking his strike in comparison to some of the other strikers that you've received strikes from, because I mean, I think in a lot of ways, and you were just talking about being a little bit nervous, was probably just, seeing those knockout, highlight reels that Vern has amassed over the last little bit.
He hits hard, and in that first hit, I've watched every one of his matches. He never comes out full power in that first hit. It's always the second one, and I mean, and even that first one, I mean, when I rewatch it, I can tell he's not putting everything into it, and I mean, it wasn't quite as hard as the bell, but it was right under the bell. So I mean, he hits hard, and I mean, I knew that if it went any longer, he was only going to get harder, hit harder. So, you know, personally for me, I'm glad it finished in one. That way I didn't have to take those shots. But, I mean, I didn't like seeing the way he went down and everything. It made me feel, I was worried about him, so I was checking on him quite a bit after I, did like a second of celebration. I took a knee, and I was just wanted to make sure he was all right.
Mhm. Where does this victory rack up amongst all the victories that you've had here in slap fighting?
Uh, Second, I
Second?
think. I mean, yeah, I think beating Darius at Power Slap One in front of like Dana and them was something that I had always wanted to do. I mean, everybody wants to do that they grow up doing MMA. Obviously you want to get to UFC, and fight in front of Dana, which I was never good enough to do that in cage fighting.
Mhm.
So to do it at Power Slap One for slap fighting, it was it was a great honor for me. And then to come out here against Vern, somebody that I'd been looking forward to while I was coaching him on the show, and to come out and compete against, and to finally for it to happen, um, it was yeah, it was probably second on my all time favorite win list.
Amazing. I mean, you've been a great ambassador for the sport. You've been one of my favorite the entire time. I still, remember that fight against Darius, you overcoming the monkey on the back, changing the game. Everything that you did in that match will live on, in aura. And when we get a Hall of Fame for slap fighters, I'm sure you'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like I said, we appreciate watching you the entire time. Much love, much respect. I hope you stick around the sport in some way in capacity. I hope Erica and Frank keep you around as a coach, commentator, color commentator, whatever it is. I hope this is not the last we see of you. And my phone is always open to you, my man.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to stay around. I mean, that's why I said on the stage, I'm looking forward to who holds the belt next. I'm sure Russell's got to be in line for it. So whoever faces Russell, I mean, in my opinion, it would have to be either Vern or Luke, since Luke won tonight.
Mhm.
The only reason why I say Vern is because most of the time when a number one contender loses, they don't usually move down. So, I mean, and I personally think that you know this just wasn't Vern's night. I mean, he does a lot better any other time. I think he had a bunch of stuff on his mind. But if not, I mean, I think Russell and Luke will go at it for the belt, and then hopefully Vern will, get a win and earn his way back up there again. Because I'd like to see him, I'd like to see him get that belt.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Ron. All the very best. Travel safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, bud.